Hey, it's Summer here, and today I want to talk about how I made this Edelgard doll. I've just finished Free Houses, and I absolutely love it. I'm a massive Fire Emblem fan, and I found this Bo Peep doll, and I thought that she'd be amazing for the part. I mean, she's got this fantastic body. It's like she's got this eeny-bitty waist, and there's huge hips, extremely, movable and flexible legs. Her arms are quite good. One of the big problems here is this open hand, and obviously, unlike the Monster High hand, you can't detach them. So, when it came to the face-up, I also noticed she had an open smiley face. This is something that you could sort out easily with the Barbie by cutting the teeth out and just basically gluing it back together again, but just couldn't do it with her head. She's way too strong. So what I did is I actually painted the bottom lip inside where the teeth go, and then filled it with resin and just cooked it. So it all kind of worked out alright. Now, another problem I noticed is that she doesn't actually have any breasts at all, and this doesn't really work for the dress that I'm going for. So I got some polymorph plastic. Now, polymorph plastic is amazing. You just heat it up and you can mold it like clay. It works instantly. And so I made these sort of like fake little boobs. I don't know if you can see it. I sort of like just covered it with a red fabric and glued some ribbon around it. So now it sort of just easily pops on. And I've got blue tack underneath. So directly there, we now have breasts. Very easy to get on and off. For the pants, literally just cut out what I thought a pant line would look like and then shoved some black elastic on the sides. Super easy to make these. Actually molding off her pant line, just sort of like sanding it down, I needed a tool and it took me almost all day. These are very sort of strong pant lines on the Disney Bo Peep doll. So we've got that working and she looked great. Then I moved on to the hair. Now the hair, I used some alpaca wool. It's longer, it makes a lot of knots, it's more like yarn, but extremely soft and very luxurious. And I kind of started by making these pigtails, and they looked fantastic. I had so much fun with them, and they were so soft and lovely. But unfortunately, for Edelgard's hair, they had to go. Pain. After that, I glued heavily around the broken pigtails, sort of like with PVA, and wrapped the hair up around some sort of foam circles so that they could become like almost Princess Leia-y type buns. I made some basic structures which would all go to the head. I paint them black, I attach some resin to it, cook it, and then use chrome powder to basically just give it this really nice metallic sort of look. Now, the polymorph plastic works so well for the horns. I just basically kept putting it over the kettle so that I could just keep molding it as I was going. And after that, I just attached some studs and some gems, and it looks really, really nice in the end. The two front bits still not quite a bit, and it's just this really nice wig cap that I can put on and off. I might make her the school uniform later, so I wanted it to be removable. I know I should cut the length, but I really like it and it's so soft. For the dress, I realised I was never going to be able to get the sleeves on over these hands. This hand is super strong and it's really open. So instead I decided to make the sleeves in two parts. One part would be like sort of poofy, the sort of top half, and have like a wide enough rim so that it could fit like a sock going over that I could stretch over these hands. Making it was kind of in sections, so I had to start like with the breast section and then a under section. I kind of just went by eye and guessed about what I was doing all the way through, and fortunately it just worked out fantastically. I had actually made a mock dress for what I thought was going to be the dress pattern for this doll, and what I realized quite quickly is because of her super tiny waist and super big hips, that nothing was actually going to fit on and off over, and I ended up making the split really, really high so that I could get it on and off. So this time round, I actually decided to make the dress a lot wider at the sides. Now, this wasn't really going to work for Edelgard, having a really wide dress. Having a low sort of back seam as well. Part of the reason why is because you can see that she's got a sort of like a really structured system in the middle. So instead I divided a sort of corset using the paper tape method over the top of the dress, sort of pulling it in all the while until I got this super sort of nice corset after I decorated it all. Coming up with the decorations was more of a case of drawing it on paper, gluing it to some cereal cardboard, cutting it all out, and I kind of found that I could use the same sort of resin and chrome powder technique to come up with all these nice sort of flashy designs that also worked for the dress as well. For the armor bits, I really had no idea, so I was coming up with it on the fly. So I got some foam, cut out what it needed to look like. I attached some wire to the underside, so I don't know if you can just sort of see the sort of like imprint of where the wire is underneath. I then glued some fabric all the way underneath. And so now it easily sort of like folds in around and clips onto the arm, and I can just sort of like pull it in nicely. Now, I've made shoes before on this channel, so if you look, you can sort of see more detail about what I've done. Basically, it's just a whole get the felt sew it around the foot and sort of glue it to a sole, and it works so easily. These ones I decided to do in 2 parts just to add like a little bit extra movement in the foot. This worked out a little too well, and I needed to make some socks to sort of like keep the shoes in a better place. Also sort of making a bit of a cardboard edge here and here for the little decoration design. The axe was an actual nightmare to make. I sort of started out with a picture of what I wanted and then just started melting it with polymorph plastic on a little wooden dowel. It took me all day just shoving more bits of polymorph plastic on until I got what I wanted. And every time I heated up one piece to sort of give it a nice bit of a mold, you then got another piece that was sort of like wanted to flop over. So it was more of a sort of Tetris balancing act than skill. Now, lastly, the cape. Now, the cape comes in 2 parts. So the first part is sort of like the collar and the shoulders. And I started off with making the box pleats. I hate making box pleats. I absolutely suck at it. It took me so long. Like, I made like a mile of box pleats, and I had just enough that looked okay at the end for me to be able to sew around the shoulders twice. And then I sort of glued this bit across the top just to sort of like make it all look nice and neat. And fortunately it worked out. Then for the bottom half of the cape, I basically sort of bag sewed a satin lining to the cotton, folded all this in and sort of like tried my best to sort of sew it in. I got these little studs. They are amazing. I love them so much. And then underneath, it's all just sort of like sewn in place. This had to be ironed on. That was a nightmare, but it works and it looks okay. Now for attaching the cape to the dress, I came up with this fun idea. So inside the dress, I noticed I had enough room here, so I just glued in some magnets. And underneath here, I was able to glue in some magnets. So now the dress and the cape just attaches nicely to each other. Groovy. Well, time to get her dressed.